Hello guys, Jesse here. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite games from the 32-bit era, and the surprising story leading to its development. That game is Croc, Legend of the Gobbos. It's an early 3D platformer developed by Argonaut Games. While Croc was actually considered a commercial success, selling over 3 million copies worldwide when it released on the original PlayStation in 1997, I don't exactly hear people talking about this game more than 20 years later. We'll take a closer look after the break. Don't go anywhere. We can't really talk about Croc without first looking at the company behind it. Founded in 1982, the Britain-born Argonaut Games got their start creating titles for computers that were popular in the UK at the time, such as the Commodore 64, the Amiga, and the Atari ST. In 1986, they released their first major hit, Starglider, which is notable for being one of the earliest 3D games. By the late 1980s, Argonaut's 3D prowess began to attract the attention of major publishers. After producing a prototype called Nesglider that showed the potential for 3D games on the SNES, a deal was signed with Nintendo to help develop the Super FX chip. Argonaut sent much of their staff to Japan to work with Nintendo directly, their first major 3D title being a space shooter called X for the Game Boy. X was notable for being a groundbreaking handheld game due to its 3D graphics. They also made King Arthur's World, one of the few games that made use of the SNES's mouse peripheral. Then, in 1993, Star Fox was released, which helped popularize 3D polygons in gaming on home consoles. Its revolutionary graphics wouldn't have been possible without the Super FX chip, and Star Fox sold over 4 million copies. Argonaut assisted Nintendo in developing other Super FX titles such as Stunt Race FX and the previously unreleased Star Fox 2. After contributing so much and proving their value to Nintendo, a concept for a 3D platformer was pitched that would have starred Yoshi. Nintendo has always been strict about other developers using their own IPs and rejected the proposal. It could have very well replaced Super Mario 64 as a pioneer in three-dimensional gaming. Instead, Argonaut reworked their efforts into Croc, Legend of the Gobbos. Croc was originally developed with the Sega Saturn in mind, so while it supported the DualShock controller of the PlayStation, the controls were mainly optimized for a traditional D-pad. The story starts with King Rufus, who is the leader of the lovable, fuzzy little Gobbos. He finds our hero Croc as a baby in a woven basket floating down the river, and after being won over by his innocence, raises him as his own, teaching him in the ways of the Gobbo. Croc grows over time, eventually becoming much larger than his Gobbo family. One day, the evil Baron Dante and his villainous troop of Dantinis invade Gobbo Valley, terrorizing the gentle beings, snatching them up and locking them in cages. King Rufus calls on a magical bird named Beanie who transports Croc to safety, seconds before Rufus is caught by Baron Dante. While Croc is safe, the Dantinis have conquered Gobbo Valley and have turned many of the innocent creatures residing there into monstrous minions. Croc's quest is laid out before him. He must free his family and defeat sinister Baron Dante. On the title screen, you're greeted with a catchy, jazzy melody. I really like the soundtrack for this game as it changes to suit the atmosphere. The levels are accessed via a world map. To cleverly disguise the technical limitations at the time, each stage is broken up into smaller subsections and take place above land, underground, and sometimes underwater. Croc faces a variety of enemies and obstacles that he must overcome during his journey. The primary goal of each level is to find a gong at the end, while freeing as many Gobbos as possible along the way. Striking the gong will transport Croc to the next stage. Some stages contain bosses known as Guardians that you must defeat in order to progress onward. As is typical with most platformers, there are plenty of collectibles to pick up. Like the rings in Sonic the Hedgehog, crystal orbs act as your health. When you take damage, they scatter and you lose them. Red hearts give you an extra life. There are 6 Gobbos hidden in each level and act as Croc's main objective throughout the game. 5 of them are hidden in various locations, often requiring you to solve a puzzle or complete some kind of challenge. The last Gobbo is located in a bonus room that requires 5 colored crystals scattered across each stage. If you rescue every Gobbo before a boss, a secret stage becomes available that will grant you a puzzle piece if you complete it. Obtaining every puzzle piece unlocks a secret island with extra levels to play. You don't absolutely have to save every Gobbo to complete the game, but doing so allows you to fight the real final boss and unlock the true ending. The controls are a little cumbersome compared to the fluidity of more modern platformers, but Croc's moves are kinda similar to Mario's in his 3D debut. You can run, jump, climb, and swim, as well as flip 180 degrees to maneuver quickly. You can also sidestep by pressing L1 and R1. Pressing square executes a tail attack. It can be a little difficult to land a hit, but after a while you kinda develop a feel for exactly how close you need to be to an enemy and not get hurt. Pressing the jump button while already airborne executes a ground pound, which is useful for breaking boxes, finding secrets, and attacking enemies from above. It's impossible to know for sure, but depending on how far along the Yoshi prototype was before being rejected by Nintendo, it's quite possible that Nintendo might have repurposed some of these mechanics for Super Mario 64, but this is just hearsay. Mario 64 was and still is a pillar in gaming history, but it's kind of intense to think about what might have come from Argonaut if Nintendo trusted them like they trusted Rare with Donkey Kong. Croc isn't for everyone. It certainly hasn't aged all that well, but it holds a special place in my heart in a time where 3D console games were still experimental. There wasn't a solid, tried and true standard to pull inspiration from. My biggest nitpick looking back has got to be the controls. Pressing left or right turns you in a fashion similar to Resident Evil. Sometimes you have to reposition yourself in order to ensure you'll actually land on a platform you're trying to reach. These controls were greatly improved in its sequel, Croc 2, but I feel this game is still worth playing today. If you can look past its dated appearance and its somewhat frustrating controls, there's a wonderful, classic gaming experience waiting for you here. There's clever level design that mixes things up and keeps you interested in what's going to happen next. And it has a special charm that is hard to come by in today's hyper-realism driven gaming community. And so I must ask, have any of you ever played Croc Legend of the Gobbos? Do you have any fond memories of other games from this era? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. If you have any thoughts on other games I should review, go ahead and share your suggestions with me. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you'd like to see more like it, and consider subscribing if you'd like to show your support. As always, I appreciate you watching my channel, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching and keep on gaming.